Ladies and gentlemen, it's not Monday morning, but it is the Monday Morning Racer live with Between the Slicks here Monday evening. Looking forward to chatting with who we've got in the green room, and that is Jim Campbell and also Mark Herzhauser. We're going to be chatting with them what Jim has been scratching and clawing to doing to stay out there and why Mark has got into it at all with the volatility of the nitro ranks that it is in the modern day, as competitive as it is. The most competitive I think it has ever been, honestly, in NHRA drag racing, especially in the funny car ranks. We're going to take a break here in just a moment. We'll get Jim on, we'll get Mark on, we'll chat with them for a few minutes right here live on Between the Slicks. As you're watching, hit the like button, hit the share button, and dive into that comment section. Would love to take your questions for Jim and Mark tonight. And before we take that break, I do want to bring up the sponsor for the show. The show Between the Slicks is presented by McKinney Corp. Every time I go up to McKinney Corp, I am astounded at what Murph and the gang are doing. Took a photo of these the last time I was up in Lafayette. They are tube inserts. They are made in-house, machined, cut down, formed right there in Lafayette, Indiana at McKinney Corp. And they were being shipped out to other race car builders. That's right. McKinney Corp is oftentimes supplying other race car builders across the country and even beyond the world of NHRA drag racing. If you look closely, for example, on a NASCAR stock car of the Cup level or Xfinity level or the truck level, yes, you can actually find parts and pieces made at McKinney Corp. In particular, the latch on the passenger side window, a lot of those latches are actually made at McKinney Corp. If you have any need that needs to be fabricated, McKinney Corp can handle it. Give Murph and the team a call. We're going to take a break, and right after the break, Jim and Mark right here on Between the Slicks on Monday Morning Racer. If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your center console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it into neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System, TDS, and steal the thieves' hope. And live, we got Jim Campbell on Between the Slicks and also Mark Herzhauser of Herzhauser Racing. Guys, welcome to the show. Good to have you both on. And, well, first of all, let's begin here. Jim, Mark, how did this pairing, this team, this cooperation all come together for NHRA nitro burning drag racing?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and start that question out and leave it out to the owner, Mark.
Yeah, hey, Lee, thanks for having us on the show. We really appreciate it. You know, with Jim driving this year and his efforts and finding some financial resources to run the car, we've actually ran 5 races this year. In 2022, we hired Jimbo Ermilovich as our crew chief. Phil Burkhart was the driver at the time, did a great job. Phil's a great pro driver. But financially, you know, we're a little bit challenged. Jim was driving the Jim Dunn car. He got transitioned out of that seat and was looking for a ride. So Jimbo, who helped Jim Campbell license, said, hey, Jim Campbell's a great driver. He's really enthusiastic. He's from California, but we'll let that slide. And I think he'd be a great candidate to drive the car and has some great sponsor relationships. So with that, I called Jim. We talked through it, arranged for 2023, drove at 3 races in 2023. He's found a little additional backing this year. As I said, we've done 5 in 2024 and more to go. Really fired up, Lee, and Jim's just done an awesome job this year, driving the car, taking care of the equipment, finding the financial resources we needed to be competitive. So from here, it's, anywhere but up. We're on our way.
Well, that's fascinating, Jim, to hear that the relationship with Jim Bowe, who I've met before out there when he was working with Terry Haddock, been out there in the nitro ranks for a long time, had that relationship with you and got you paired with Mark.
Absolutely. First off, I want to say also thank you very much for having us on the show. It's always a pleasure. And, Jimbo, I've known since day one, introduced me to Mark Herzhauser. Mark is absolutely fabulous. Drove for the Duns for 6 years, drove Del Worksham's car and Terry's car for a year. And it really means a lot when you have a team that's fun, enthusiastic, but also is goal-oriented. And I really enjoy working with these guys. I've known Jimbo, and we all know that Jimbo's been tuning funny cars since pretty much Fire was around. And so it's great to have him, and it's great to be a part of Herzhauser Racing.
All right, already several events this year and going to be at Bristol from what I understand for the Thunder Valley Nationals. So bring us up to speed on the 2024 campaign for Herzhauser Racing. What has gone well? What has not gone well? What are you all working on? What are some of the things you've been able to tick off the box that we've accomplished this goal as we look ahead to Bristol, Jim?
Well, starting out first, we ran, like Mark said, the first 5 races, which was super exciting. This is an East Coast car. They're from New Jersey and stuff like that. I'm a West Coast guy. So we were able to run the Gator Nationals, obviously the season opener. And then we were able to run the West Coast races, which is my area, and was able to bring some sponsorship in. I'm going to tell you something. For a team that doesn't get a bunch of runs, and we'd love to make every run just like everybody else, but like Mark said, it really comes down to finances and funding. We've done phenomenal. We've gone out, dropped off the trailer. We're always dropping O's right off the trailer. So that gives us a baseline to work with. What that also does is sometimes makes us where we don't have to make extra runs. And every run that we save is a run that we get to use down the road. So just smart ownership by Mark, great tuning by Jimbo and the team. And my job's to get it down the middle of the track. And as anybody knows or doesn't know, these funny cars don't want to go straight. So it's an honor and a pleasure to drive for Mark and Jimbo and just the whole team. We really have a great group of men. And I'm super excited about what the future holds.
Mark, your side of that question, what are some things you've seen already this year as owner that you all have been able to accomplish and some things to work on when we look ahead to Bristol?
Yeah, Lee, thanks, man. Jim, said it all. If I had just add a few things, from a financial resources perspective, we didn't have any major sponsors. So Jim coming on and bringing some major sponsors was really helpful. Redline Oil helps us out. Bonifani Friction helps us out. But outside of those few companies, we didn't have any major sponsors. So we had the budget to go 3 races a year. And once Jim came on and said, hey, we've got some, finances available to help run the car a little bit more, and I want to go to Gainesville, my wife and I and Jim were talking about it, like, how are we going to get this done? We didn't even have a semi truck at the time. We've been bringing the semi truck to the racetrack with rental semis. So we actually bought a semi over this winter for like, $20,000, which isn't a lot to pay for a semi, but got all the maintenance program in place, brought it down to Gainesville. And in 2023, Lee, the car ran 408 at Reading. And Jim just did a fabulous job, put it right down the middle. Jimbo has been chipping away at our tune-up since 2022, since we brought him on. And that 408 was really a great feeling. So then fast forward to Gainesville, right out of the box, the team puts together the car correctly. Jimbo makes all the right calls. We skipped the first section again because of, financial resources. Boom, 409 first lap. And I can't tell you, with the equipment that we have on the car, I mean, we run stage 5 heads. We've got an old PSI blower. It's got a setback. 6-stand clutch. So our combination is probably about, if you had to historically put a time stamp on it, it's like from 09. So we're probably like 2,000 horsepower down against the other cars. For our crew guys to put it together correctly, go that 409 right out of the box. It rarely hurts parts outside of just the general wear and tear on the car. And then we went to Arizona, went to Pomona, qualified in Pomona, ran 416, which was a really good run because it was a handful. It was in the right lane, which is known for Pomona as a bit of a handful. Jim managed to keep it off the wall because it was a little bit fast, ran 416, got in, qualified 11th there. And then to go to Arizona, again, right out of the box, 405 at 302 miles an hour. It's just been an unbelievable ride for us so far. And we think we got a little more for them if we can get just a little bit more financing in place to get some more modern equipment, have our crew guys continue to put it together correctly, have Jimbo tune it to the best of his ability, and then have Jim put it down the middle.
Well, speaking of putting it down the middle, Jim, coming up Bristol, Thunder Valley, what are the particulars of that racetrack, the challenges for a Nitro Funny Car driver to put it down the middle in between the valley?
Well, Bristol, first off, is a very unique track. It used to be the Father's Day race, with the schedule changes and stuff due to, COVID and all the other stuff and races. Bristol's a phenomenal facility. There's a reason they call it Thunder Valley. It's between the mountains, and there's nothing like the echo of 2 Nitro Funny Cars or 2 Top Fuel dragsters going down. Bristol does have 2 challenges, though, and I've made many runs down there and some good ones. Number 1 challenge is it likes to suck you towards the center line. Each track has its own personality. The second thing that's huge about Bristol is there's a tunnel about 400 feet that goes underneath of the track. And a lot of the cars, that's really close to where everything's going 1-to-1, and it likes to pick the front end up. So you got to make sure that when the front end comes up, that when it comes back down, that the wheels are straight. Otherwise, it'll push you towards the center line of the wall in a heartbeat.
All right, great breakdown there. The challenges of Bristol, and I'm sure you're glad you're not on a pro stock motorcycle. The challenges they have with being there at Bristol, the raw horsepower of a Nitro Funny Car gets you through some of those things, and you're in that cage. And hey, speaking of cages, Mark, y'all got an older hot rod there with that pipe. I work up there at McKinney, and I stopped by the pit briefly at Z-Max and saw you're rocking the old 3-rail situation and scenario. So where did you find that piece?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. So just a little background on when I started the team. So, raced with Laganas in the early 2000s, amazing experience off the ramp truck. And, through that experience, I actually learned what it would take to actually own a car and to have a point of view that the work ethic that they brought to it, the attention to detail that they brought to it, even without the financial resources. You think about running a Top Fuel dragster off a ramp truck. And through that, and my experience working with them for many years, I decided that I wanted to own my own team. So in 2012, I actually went out and bought a rolling chassis. That was from Wilkerson. Just basically a roller, rear end, bell housing in it, a block and some heads. And from there, I've just been hanging parts and pieces on it since 2012, all the way up to 2018, ran it at one race. And then we brought Jimbo in 2022 to refine the tune-up. But the thing about that 3-rail car is, and, Jimbo's ran all kinds of cars. He's ran cars that are slinkies, short wheelbase and have a lot of slip joints in them. And he's ran dragsters. And with our 3-rail car, he really likes the way it reacts early to the clutch application so far. It really is grippy, and he can put a lot of clutch to it early. In the middle of the course, we're trying to figure out how to get it running a little bit better in the middle. But I think once we get that figured out, boy, it's been a really good ride. And as far as I can tell, Phil said, and Jim said too, the 3-rail is a good driving car. So that's good for us, to have a car that's easy to drive and handle when you're thinking about managing our financial situation, the power we have, the group of guys that we have working on the car. We want to make sure it's safe, goes down the racetrack, and that helps us get qualified. And that way we get to go to more races.
Jim, you've been out here for a while with Jim Dunn Racing, and you are well connected. You're well liked. You're a fan favorite, I would say. People are pulling for you. People are rooting for you. But that doesn't make it any easier to find sponsorship and to bring on partners. How hard is it out there to get partners to the track, to experience drag racing, to get them on that car to push their brand within drag racing? Because it's not as easy as it was just, hey, I got this, car that belches fires, throw money at me.
Well, Lee, it's a great point. A lot of us go after the same sponsors. There's only so many sponsors out there. The big boys got their big sponsors already. I think what we've learned, or at least I've learned this is my 9th year as a pro, that you got to think outside the box. And that's why I really like working with Mark and Jimbo. These are two guys that think outside the box. And again, a 3-rail car, you would say, is an ancient car. We make this car work. It has some unique, factors to it. We do have an older body, so it does make it tough to keep it in the middle sometimes, but it drives beautifully. And, Mark is so enthusiastic, and Jennifer, his wife, and just the whole team. It's just a great experience to be around. And like I said, Jimbo and I think we all feed off each other, just because we're an older set of team, and so there's not a lot of game plan, even though there is. We all have the same goal, and that is to bring in more sponsors. I love being one of the fan favorites. We love having the fans come into our pits and talk to us and show them around the car and stuff like that. And I think that's the one thing that drag racing has over every sport, whether it be the NFL, the NBA, NASCAR. Nobody's going to come out of the stands and hang out with you, take pictures, sign autographs. There's no other sport that does that. And that brings in the fan base. To get the sponsorship start, we need to get the people out to the track. The one thing that TV does not do for drag racing is give it justice. You watch 500 laps of a car going around. There's nothing like 20,000 horsepower sitting at the starting line. And once you get somebody out there and they feel the vibration and the thunder and the excitement, they're hooked. And so that's really the best way of getting sponsors in, and then treating everybody like they should be treated. And I think that's the key, is making sure that we take care of everybody that goes on that car.
Completely agree. And Jim, you've done that in the past. I know you're doing that now. Keep up the good work in finding partners and going out there racing with Herzhauser Racing. Mark, we were talking a little bit before the show started. You said, as a fan, you've mentioned being with the Laganas. Just honestly, open up here. Why own one of these money-guzzling hot rods and throw it out there in NHRA competition?
Because I absolutely love nitro drag racing. I mean, that's the only reason you can explain it. So yeah, Lee, I mean, one of the great things about drag racing is there's lots of different areas to work in it. Like you and I talked about, as you said before we got started on the podcast, was that you're doing some multimedia for McKinney Corp and Murph's organization, who, by the way, I talk to those guys all the time and buy parts from them. They're a great group of people, and happy to hear that you guys are partnering up. But just the love of drag racing, it's just really hard to explain, but once you have it in your blood, and I know the fans feel the same way about it that I do, that Jim does, that Jimbo does. Jimbo calls it being diseased. We're just diseased individuals. So, Lee, to answer your question, like working with the Laganas and looking at the financial resources they had, I felt like, internally I could do it because of the experience that I had with them. And, anytime you have the opportunity to own one of these cars, to me, it gives you the ability to put your own stamp on it. and we're still on our journey to finding out exactly who Herzhauser Racing is going to be with Jim Campbell, with Jimbo, with our great crew guys. But to be a part of the sport, owning to me is, it's like being a driver or a crew chief. I mean, the drivers get the ultimate, they get to go 330 miles an hour. And we're going to get them that fast one of these days. The crew chiefs get to make all the calls and the technical details that go into that. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating when you get behind the scenes and think about some of the things and the way that Jimbo thinks about mechanically, with the car. And then as an owner, just to oversee the entire operation, to have a great group of people. And it is all about the people, Lee. I cannot express to you how important it is to have a great group of people. I promise you, if you talk to Alan Johnson, you talk to Dickie Venables or Austin Coyle or Jimbo Ermolovich, when you've got the right people in place and they are selfless in their work on the car and they think about what they're doing and how it contributes overall to the performance of the car. When you have those things clicking, and we're right there. Team-wise, we're right there with the most competitive teams as far as the way that we approach the assembly of the car and the way that we run the car. We may not have all the parts that they have or all the hypo blowers they have and clutches they have, but as far as the people resources we have, when those things are clicking, it's just an absolute joy to watch the car go down the racetrack, to haul it back to the pits, to knock it apart. And when you have a group of people that are as passionate about it as our group is, as Jim is, as Jimbo is, to be an owner and to see all that come together, it's just making memories is what we're doing. And they are just the greatest memories that I'll have in my life. I know being at the NHRA drag strip and being with this group of people and putting it together right and watching it haul ass and turning it around, doing it again. It's just a dream come true.
I like that. Working out the dream, burning some nitro. Jim, well, I think as Jimbo has said, and you expressed, Mark, yeah, we're all diseased. We want to be at the track. We want to get another nitro hit. We want to get another fix of that wicked potion, that pop in the tank. But, man, you've been doing it a while, and you've had round wins, and you've accomplished things within the sport, racing with Jim Dunn Racing and other outfits. Why continue the hustle? What is it within your gut that keeps you scratching and clawing to be out here and to be competitive and to go rounds and do more in this sport?
Well, Mark made a great statement, and he really did. We all have the passion. This is my drug. I don't do other drugs, but I love adrenaline. And when you get a group of guys that connects this well, it's not only just about racing and stuff, but it's about having fun. And Mark made a great statement. We're building memories, and we're just starting this journey. And when you find the right group of people and you enjoy going to work, I don't care what you do in this world. If you hate going to work, you can make $1 million, but you're miserable every day. We don't have that yet. We're going to have the big budget, the big sponsors, but we also have this tight-knit group and this friendship and this camaraderie and just genuine people. It makes it a pleasure and an honor just to go to work and hang out with these guys and gals. And everybody just loves what they do. And when you have one big happy family, eventually it's going to pay off into one big happy win.
All right, let's break this down. You mentioned earlier, Jim, about driving and the older Monte Carlo body. Well, Drag Racing Mayhem asked this: how is it running the old Monte Carlo bodies? Do you lose a lot of ET aero-wise because of it, or is it about the same? So what makes it challenging to drive compared to, let's say, a modern body that, Wilkerson's going to be running, that's being worked on at McKinney right now, or that Ron Capps is running from Toyota Gazoo? So what makes it a handful compared to the other ones?
Well, just like everything else, it's all about technology. And I've driven, brand new funny cars, and I've driven older funny cars. And the two things about it, number one, the body's a little bit heavier. but the aerodynamics are a little bit different. Back in the early 2000s or 2010s, we were going fast, but now we're going faster. And when you get these aerodynamics, it tends to want to make this car move around quite a bit. And just like your regular car or any other car, you got to drive these things. If they went straight on their own, you wouldn't need a driver. So they do present a challenge as far as aerodynamics and downforce. But we seem to overcome that a lot. I enjoy the challenge of driving it. And like I said, I've got a great group of people behind me. So I know when I get into that car that everybody's put their blood, sweat, and tears in there. It may be my life on the line, but I guarantee you that every one of those people have put their life on the line to make sure that my life is safe in that car.
Well, I do have to say that Monte Carlo body of that time frame, it is a good-looking body. It's a good-looking, funny car, and it looks good out there. I get shades of the Russos looking at it and seeing it. They've been campaigning a Monte Carlo body for a long time now. Mark, as a team owner, I know you want to go out there. You want to be competitive. You want to qualify. You want to qualify well. You want to turn wind lights on. You want to go deeper on Sunday. And having the right parts and pieces is a part of that. Well, one of those, as we just talked about, is the body. What are your thoughts on that next step? How do y'all make that next step? How do you acquire that next piece of carbon fiber to help the team? And what does that look like?
Yeah. Lee, it's a great question. I know you sound like Campbell now because Campbell's been getting on us to get a more modern body. But I'll tell you, the first thing I would say, Lee, is for anybody out there who's, we're positioning sponsorship opportunities. Jim's having those conversations. I'm having those conversations. There isn't a sponsorship that's going to benefit, or isn't a race car team that's going to benefit more from a sponsorship and a few financial dollars than Herzhauser Racing. Because I can tell you right now, Jimbo's got big ideas for all the improvements, that we're going to make to the car once we get a little bit more financial resources. And that's ultimately, Lee, what it boils down to. When you look at a body and say you can get a used body out there for X dollars, okay, we can get a used body. We can get it mounted on the car, call it a Ford Mustang, and it will create some improvement to the car. But if you take those X dollars, and I look at a guy like Jimbo who's looking at speed secrets, and he has speed secrets throughout this car, Lee, and we could talk about them, that are just immeasurable, and they're all significant improvements, and they're all incremental, but they all add up to increased performance. So what it boils down to is, do you want to spend X dollars on a body, or do you want to have another set of rods and pistons to go in the car so we can go to the next race? Or do you want to have new, rocker arm assemblies? Or do we want to make sure that we have, we got a 5-disc clutch in it? Do we want to make sure we have 4 new or 5 new clutch discs in it to go to the next race versus having the body? And we're just trying to find that fine line, Lee. And look, we know a new body's in the works to give it that modern look, and that will help attract a sponsor. We understand that, but it's also a matter of putting the limited resources that we have financially in the right little places on the car. So number one, we can go to the next race, and number two, we can continue to see those incremental performance improvements that we're all looking for. Because when we do put that body on there, it could help maybe 4 100s or 5 100s in performance, just because we have a little bit more of an aero advantage than we have with the Monte Carlo body. So it's a matter of putting the dollars in the right place.
I think that's a great explanation. It makes so much sense. I think a lot of people on TV, on Fox on a Sunday, they look at a Monte Carlo body and like, just go get a new body. You'll help your performance. But if you've got the body and yet you need rods and pistons and all those consumables to continue to run in nitro racing, yeah, that makes sense, even though they may not be as apparent and up there in the front to see with the eye like a body is. So that makes a lot of sense. Jim, you have been drag racing in the nitro funny car ranks for a while. You certainly know what you're doing. But from the time in which you got into this to now, what are some of the biggest elements that have changed? How has the game changed and upped since you've been driving?
Well, I think Mark said it absolutely brilliantly. It's all about money. It really is. As you know, there's really no scrub cars anymore. Used to have a cars that would make a good run here and there, but they might be scrub cars. There's no such thing anymore. Every car that goes out there has a chance of winning. You never know what's going to happen when you stomp on the throttle of one of these things. So I do razz Mark all the time about a body, and it's great. I love it. But he's absolutely right that Jimbo and Mark are very, very savvy at this as well. And Jimbo having many years of tuning, Mark being around it for many years, and me having almost a decade of driving, we've got a great combo. And Mark said it extremely well. I may want a new body, but if we need pistons and rods and all that stuff, that's priority. I'll get this thing down the track. It's but we got to have the equipment to do it, and it really comes back to funding. And I know that Mark has his heart in it. Jimbo does a great job with the budget we have. I have my heart in it, and we are out there looking for every dollar that we can possibly get. Because look out someday, Herzhauser, Campbell, and Jimbo, and our whole team, we're going to be up there. We're going to be pulling around wins, and we're going to be at the top end holding the Wally. Mark my words on that one.
Well, Mark, last question for you. Give us the rundown of your team, the basics. How can people follow? How can people reach out to you? Where are you located and running out of? And all those type of foundational elements to a race team.
Yeah, Lee, thanks. And again, thanks so much for having us on the program. Again, to Redline Oil for helping us out, and Bonifani Racing, ClutchKings.com, been very helpful for the program. But I think you can see my Instagram, and that's on X as well. It's Herzhauser and then Acing. That I maxed out on letters there for Herzhauser Racing. So just one R. Team's located in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. As Jim said, but I'm actually living and working in California right now. We plan on going out to Bristol, to Virginia, hopefully Brainerd and Reading. Just can't wait to get out there again. And any of the fans that are listening and watching right now, Lee, we would just say, that Jim and I and Jimbo and the whole team, we're just as passionate about this as you are. Bring the family out to the pits. We'll get you some pictures of the kids sitting in the car and talk about any of the parts that you want. You can touch the car and look at it. It's not F1. You don't get within 1,000 feet of the truck and trailer or NASCAR where you can't talk to a driver. You can come over and talk to us. We'll bring you in the trailer. Pete Tucci, our clutch guy, gives out lollipops to the kids. So, and it's also www.herzhauserracing.com. No swag available yet, but one of these days we'll get some T-shirts for sale. We're saving all our money for rods and pistons. Lee, appreciate you having us on the show, and thanks to the NHRA for just putting in what I consider the greatest racing platform on the planet. So thanks, Lee.
Jim, one more question for you. 5 races already in. Bristol is coming up. No matter how many more races, maybe for the rest of the year, at the end of the 2024 season, Jim, for you as a driver in particular, what would make this season, 2024, for you and your career, where it is now, a successful season?
Well, what makes a successful season is we're running more races, and it's already a successful season. We ran more races this year. Like Mark said, we're running Bristol and Virginia. We will be running Brainerd, show you on that one, and some other races that we're working on now. So we'll be out there more. What's going to make the most successful season is keeping the group of guys that we have together, keeping the car in one piece, and just building and building and building. I don't have any children, but this is like watching a child grow up. We started with a car. We went from Pampers to pull-ups, and from pull-ups, we're going to walk, crawl, and we're going to run. So being with this group of people really makes it enjoyable. And I think that we have a great future together. If we get that big sponsor, look out. That's all I got to say.
All right, man. Guys, look, so glad to be able to talk to you both. Jim, I've briefly chatted with you in the past a couple of times. And Mark, I really hadn't been able to chat with you at all, but I love the pairing. I love the passion. Y'all got Jimbo involved. He certainly knows what he's doing. Go out there in the Valley and turn on some wind lights this weekend. Hope y'all have a good Thunder Valley Nationals.
Thank you, Lee. And I want to say the same thing. Thank you very much for having us on your show. I enjoy talking with you all the time. You're a great guy. So like I said, our pit is always open to the fans. We're one of the most fan-friendly pits out there. And I look forward to seeing and hanging out with everybody, and stop by and say hi and tell us you saw us on Lee's show.
Y'all do that. Mark, Jim, thank you. Have a good night.
You too, sir.
Lee.
All right, folks. Man, that was a good chat with Mark and Jim, and certainly glad to have them on the show. And I hope that they have a great Thunder Valley Nationals coming up this weekend. There at Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol Dragway. It is my intention to be there. Do have some family issues going on that may hamper me from being there. Hey, there are things bigger than drag racing in life. Nonetheless, it is my intention to be there. And for the rest of this week, we do intend to have more between the slicks. Hopefully be able to speak with the winner of the Southeast Gassers Association A-Gas category from Knoxville Dragway. That was Leslie Horn. By the way, if you're watching on the YouTube side, please hit the like button, but you can also stay on the Monday Morning Racer platform and see the eliminations from Knoxville Dragway this past weekend. That video was just uploaded. You can see the round-by-round action and hear from the stars, because they are the drivers of the Southeast Gassers Association in the A-Gas category from Knoxville Dragway. Gassers on Rocky Top is uploaded and viewable on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel. And there is plenty of other content that you can see there, as well as on Facebook, X, and Instagram. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. Hit the like button for me as we head out. Drag Racing Mayhem, I see your question. When I got more time on another show this week, we'll break down all of those elements from Epping, Knoxville, and beyond in the world of drag racing, as we do intend to have other shows later on in the week. As far as this one, we're going to close it out, and I'm going to get on down the road and get some supper. You all do that too. Enjoy the rest of your evening here on this fine Monday. The Monday Morning Racer is out. God bless, and keep the pedal to the metal. If I can find the right commercial. Hopefully. Dove Fuels.
Fly right in your motorsports endeavors with products and services from Dove Fuels. Pete Dove is the owner of Dove Fuels. He is a racer himself in a nitro methane burning fuel altered, dubbed Back from the Ashes. He races with Driven Racing Oils, which produces a 70 weight nitro oil. But that is not all they make. They make applications for you on the oval track, whether that's dirt or asphalt, and for even you, the bracket racer, on the drag strip. And if you need nitromethane, Pete Dove at Dove Fuels is the one to call for a drum, or even supplying for an entire series, as he is the official supplier of nitro for Nitro Chaos. If it's nitromethane or Driven Racing Oils, you need to contact Dove Fuels. Gentle name, hardcore products.